their non-core activity. A peaceful, crime-free environment attracts investment and fosters business opportunities. So, what do you need to do? You need to have legal provisions that cater for empowering civil organizations to do security duties. Security agencies, armed guards, as I brought out, all these are today operating in the gray zone. They need to be empowered. There needs to be legislation governing their use. They must have authority. A very extreme case is the Blackwater Security Agency being used by the Americans that was used by the Americans in Iraq. Very controversial, but that is a classic case of outsourcing. There must be public awareness, there must be public responsibility, and finally, there must be an environment where corporates and police reach out to each other. Information security. Today we take our democracy almost too literally. Whenever there is an episode, on the spot are a whole raft of vans, television cameras, whereas I'm not saying curtail it. But sometimes these can be detrimental in real time in a situation. We need to have laws like all mature democracies do, where such media exposure is controlled, it is delayed. It is delayed so as to be out of no use to the terrorist or his controller. Classic case, 2611 in Mumbai, where the controllers were controlling the operation watching television. We cannot allow such a situation to develop, so we must have laws that govern this. And finally, public-private partnerships can make a real contribution, save money, foster a very harmonious, peaceful environment where businesses can grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And now our next eminent speaker, Mr. Akshay Singhal, is Senior Manager Advisory Practice, Ernst & Young, has over a decade of experience working with global conglomerates such as Ernst & Young, IBM and PwC. He also assisted the NIC, National Informatics Center, and IT arm of Government of India in designing strategy roadmap for productization of e-office application, in addition to designing a project report on technology solution, processes and capacity building for an intelligence agency under Ministry of Home Affairs set up to counter terrorism. Mr. Singhal also carried out an assessment of police forces schemes for Ministry of Home Affairs, where he assessed and evaluated the extent of modernization with regards to mobility, communication equipment, office and living, space, etc., and offered recommendations. I now have the privilege in welcoming Mr. Singhal for his presentation.
Thank you very much. I think the good part about being the tail-end batsman is rather the good or the bad part. The challenge is that if the others haven't done a good job, then he has to probably score quite well. And if others have done a good job, then I'll probably have to just score a few runs and get away with it. And I think my the esteemed colleagues here, the speakers here and the earlier sessions as well have done a really good job. So it leaves me with probably a few things to talk about now. So actually, in one of the discussions with the government and a government meeting, I actually bumped into a government official. And he said something to me, and I would want to quote him here. So he said, so it's about security. So what does private sector know about security? It's our job to provide security. And I kept thinking about it for quite some time. I chose not to respond to him then. And then I came across this particular quote from Tom Ridge, who's the earlier Secretary, Department of Homeland Security in the US. So he says that I want to just say this about the private sector. In my mind, the government is incapable of responding to its maximum ability without private sector support. So this goes completely contrary to the discussion that I had with that government official the other day. With all humility and respect to that individual, there is no doubt that provision of security to the businesses, to the citizens, is the job of the government. But going by what Tom Bridge has said here, I do definitely believe the private sector has a very large, comprehensive role to play in providing security to the businesses and the citizens of the country. So, going ahead from there, so let's talk about, I'm trying to keep this presentation very simple. There are lesser number of people here, and I'm sure it will be much easier for me to get their attention now. Then the crowd was full, and so let's see where government intervenes in terms of security. So they have regulations. So they come up with regulations for setting up of businesses which are providing, say, an equipment or a technology or even private security agency for that matter. So they design the regulations to set up businesses. They control, monitor their functioning. The other role that the government plays is the taxes, duties. Can we also look at probably the government, like they have supported many other sectors to flourish and grow in the country in the past, also look at tax and custom, import,